Franke serve 4 counts, 1 to 15-year sentences based on her convictions for 4 counts of aggravated child abuse.
This is Judge John J. Walton, and he has sentenced this woman, Ruby Franke, to 4 years in prison for child abuse charges. But the story of Ruby Franke gives true crime fans a good insight into what abuse trauma actually looks like. Ruby Franke wasn't someone that kept to themselves a lot. She was a family vlogger that built their online image around content of discipline, morality, and simply doing what's right. But see, behind the camera, those parenting tips were actually levels of deep trauma abuse. Because see, Ruby Franke and her associate often enforced terrible and gruesome punishments upon their children, like withholding food and water, isolating them, restraining them physically, and framing suffering as accountability. Fortunately, one of her children was able to escape, and when soughting help, you could tell that she was visibly malnourished and injured. And when authorities went to go investigate their house, they uncovered years and years of abuse hidden behind all that stuff that Ruby was talking about online. Because what she was doing was not random cruelty, it is what psychologists call coercive control. See, coercive control always follows the same patterns. One thing that these abuse systems lean on is something called moral justification. Because see, all those restraints and all that pain they were inflicting upon their children, to them is justified. What they do is they take their position of authority and say, hey, if you question this, you're being disobedient and wrong. And by doing this, they were training the kids to not question the things that they did and reframed it as loving. Another thing they relied on is isolation. What they did was they isolated their children from concerning voices, people who would be able to determine that yeah, this is abuse. And over time, it creates something called trauma conditioning. And the subtle signs of it are very alarming. They become hyper compliant. They shut down emotionally and blame themselves for trust. They can blame themselves for punishment, often struggle with trust, and tend to have fear around authority figures. And in some extreme cases, children develop survival behaviors like lying, hiding pain, or minimizing harm. Not necessarily because they want to lie to people, but more so because their safety depends on it. And that's why these situations are so dangerous. Abuse doesn't always look chaotic. Sometimes it looks very organized.